Good morning, baseball fans, and welcome back to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Do not be fooled by that fancy name. It's just me and some friends talking about baseball cards. A new friend today, Tony, who has completed, I guess it's a master set, but it's even more than a master set of the 1949 Bowman. And if you remember, 48 was the first major set, complete set, flagship set after World War II. It came out in 1948. It has 48 cards, all black and white. Some people don't like it. I have the complete set. I do like it. But 49 is a real major step up from 48 cards to 240 cards, added color, whole bunch of new players. Really the first full complete set after World War II. So phenomenal cards. We're going to go through a lot of it. We have a lot of slides, so let me bring Tony on before I start rambling.
Hey, how you doing, Dan?
Good morning, son. How are you? I noticed we're both wearing Yankee shirts, and that will be a bit of a theme throughout this.
That's right.
So,
Big Yankees fan.
I guess I start off these shows by asking you, generally speaking, like your collection history and how you got into cards and ultimately how it is that you collected this particular set.
Okay, well, I guess starting off, my interest in baseball in this era of baseball cards comes from my dad. He was a minor league baseball player, played in the Sally League back in the 50s, and he was a pitcher. But he grew up in the Bronx, and he had tryouts with and went to spring training with the Pirates and the Philadelphia A's and so forth. So he coached our baseball teams and would throw us batting practice and all that kind of thing. And so picked up a love for baseball. As for baseball cards, I had an older brother who was 8 years older. And whenever he and my other older brother would, they collected. And whenever they'd have to clean out their room, I'd end up with all the baseball cards and I'd sort them and put them in order and so forth. And as they grew out of them, I ended up with kind of early 70s cards. But as I moved on in collecting, I ended up focusing on mainly the late 40s through the 50s. And then this became just one of my favorite sets. I don't actually remember why. I can tell you that my dad's favorite pitcher was Allie Reynolds, and his rookie card was the 48 Bowman, not the 49 Bowman. Mm-hmm. But as you said, some people don't like the 48 Bowman too much. I have most of that set, but it's not my favorite. And so when I saw the 49s with all the color, that was the set for me. So,
yeah, I mean, I like the 48 because it feels very of the era for me, and plus it has some of my favorite players. And I started working through it in large part because I had pretty much all the Hall of Famers. And then I decided, and it's only 48 cards, so I just decided to finish it. But 49 is a real project because you're dealing with some players whose cards are not inexpensive. I mean, I was trying to buy the Dobie at Strongsville, and I couldn't swing the deal. But you got Page and Robinson, of course, and those are gonna be really tough cards to pull in, especially these. When did you start? When did you start collecting this particular set?
I think I probably started in about 2010 or 12. So I completed it. I think I completed it probably about 5 years ago. But anyway, it took me, let's say, 8 years to complete it in all PSA graded. So
let me pull up the slides because the first one is a special one. So you mentioned your dad. and you sent me this photo, which I absolutely love when people do this. We had one other person in the Rizzuto show send me a photo with their dad, and it was really meaningful because a lot of my baseball stuff and my baseball cards are family related. My dad drove me to shows when I was a kid, all that kind of stuff. And my Boston Braves thing, we'll get into in a little bit, is a family thing. So really love to see this photo. Why don't you tell me what we have here?
Yeah, so this is, I think they used to call it American Legion ball back in the day. But as I mentioned, my dad was born and raised in the Bronx. I was born in the Bronx as well, moved away to Chicagoland when I was pretty young. But this is a picture, late 40s, of a team of teenagers that were on a team called the Mohawks. And I think they were sponsored by a local sporting goods store. And so there was a guy named Lou Zacklin, I think, that basically paid for the uniforms and so forth. But this was kind of a big deal back then, these neighborhood teams, and they would get a lot of notoriety. They'd get noticed in the papers, and there'd be write-ups about them. I have a few of those kinds of things from the games. But my dad is in this picture. He's the guy that's not wearing a uniform. Apparently, it looks like he had just come from work. He was a mechanic in his dad's garage, automotive garage. And so he's there, and he would tell us stories about playing and, all the games around the city, and then how the tryouts worked, and the kids would get invited to Yankees or Dodgers or Giants tryouts in the city. And one of the interesting things about the picture is, so the guy who's not wearing a uniform, he's a little bit shorter, black hair, over to the left-hand side of the picture. That's my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Right on his shoulder, his right shoulder, but to the left is Rocky Colavito, who he was on the team when he was, I think, 15 or 16, and then went away, got signed by the Indians, and went away to play in the minors after that. So this was while Rocky was on the team. He and a couple of his brothers were also on the team. So kind of an interesting picture. And a couple years back, went and saw Rocky and gave him this picture, and it was pretty cool moment. So,
wow, yeah, because I know Rocky unfortunately passed, I guess within the last year or so. I think it was.
Yeah, and right before Christmas.
Yeah, and so he did a lot of appearances, which was great. You see a lot of pictures of him at shows with other players and stuff. So it's really wonderful that you got to connect with him. And apparently an engaging man when fans met him. So I hope that experience was everything you'd hoped for. One thing I noticed about this team, which gives me really good feeling, is that it is an integrated baseball team in the late 1940s.
It is, yeah. And, it's the Bronx. It was a melting pot in New York City at the time. So, of course.
Still is.
Yeah.
And I could tell you, my sons played travel ball in, I guess, about 10 years ago, and for 2 years. And all the teams that they play are like this. They're they have names like the Manhattan Mustangs and they played some of these teams. They played for the Gothams. So they have all these names, and it's not dissimilar. I think that one thing that's dissimilar is that they don't really get scouted for major league teams. Most of the best guys in the teams end up going to play college ball, but that's a whole different story. But it's not that much different, to be honest with you. And having my sons play on these fields that teams like this played on so many years ago was really thrilling. And so still,
So speaking of that, Dan, if your son played in the city, there's a park that this team used to play at called Crotona Park. And when I would talk to Rocky, he would tell me stories about, which diamond that they played on. I think there was like 8 diamonds in this giant park and so forth. So yeah, pretty cool history there.
I'm familiar with Gretona Park. That is wonderful. So this is a baseball card channel, so we're going to look at some baseball cards. And the thing is that we do mine first, but the good news is that I only have 3 slides, so we'll get to yours a little bit. So I don't collect the set, but I collect players in the set. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, maybe working on a team set too. But happy to have acquired for my Bob Feller collection the 49 and my Warren Spahn collection. I don't collect Yogi Berra in terms of getting all of his cards, but when I can get a card that looks as beautiful as that one there for the price I paid for it, I will grab it. And then the 1.5 Stan Musial on the far right. We talked about this a little bit before I started the recording. This is maybe one of the most undergraded cards in my collection, and I still can't figure out why it's a 1.5. But I benefited from the grade being so low by getting a low price on it, and now I have this beautiful Stan Musial card. I actually love this. I think it's a better card than his 48.
Agreed.
And one thing I should say is that some of these 49 Bowman do have the same photos that are used in 48, but they're colorized. But some of them don't. Like Feller, Spahn, and Musial are all in the 48 set with different photographs. And I think 49 actually serves all 3 of those. But in fact, Yogi Berra is too. All 4 of these guys are in the 48 set. And all of them are served better, I think, by these photos than they are in the 48 photos.
So Dan, one thing I as I'm looking at this, I want to comment on is a lot of the set is portraits. So it's kind of interesting that the 4 you picked out to show are all somewhat action photos, but
Yeah.
there's the preponderance of the cards in the set are in the 49 set are actually portraits. But so these are some of the cooler cards in the set.
Well, interestingly enough, the 48s for all 4 of these players are all pretty much portraits.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Feller, it's a close up of him kind of throwing, but it's a little too close. But I know the Spahn and the Musial are definitely portraits. So I also collect Johnny Mize, a lot of Johnny Mize. Rizzuto I like to pull whenever I can. That Tommy Henrik was in like a box at the Philly show for some ridiculously low price, and I'm like, I collect Yankees, so I'm going to get that guy. And I have everything that Ferrillo cards that ever came out, except for a few oddballs that I can't get.
That's his rookie, right?
Yeah.
Ferrillo.
That is Ferrillo's rookie. It's a beautiful card. The color to me on these reds are terrific. Should mention, we'll see them later, but Mize and Rizzuto both have 2 cards in the set, so to speak, because they have the no name on front and the name on front. And
right.
We'll get to that when we see your copies of those. And I have
so Dan, interestingly, I just picked this up this week. It's your Mize card but signed. So
where'd you get that from?
It was on eBay.
Okay. I might have seen that. I do have a Mize rookie with his 52 tops, so I may have just said that's too much.
Yeah.
Collecting too many cards. So there you go. And then my last slide are all members of the 1948 Braves in their 49 cards. That is Tommy Holmes there on the left. I absolutely love that card. The red with the red patch. Fantastic card. Alvin Dark, that is Alvin Dark's rookie card. He was a rookie on the 48 team. He's not in the 48 set. I know you want to talk about Jeff Heath there. Outfielder broke his leg or his ankle in one of the last games of the season. Didn't get a chance to play in the World Series. And then on the far right is Phil Macy, who was the catcher. I have Spahn. I do not have Sane. That's a card I should get. I have a couple of Braves, Bob Elliott and Bill Salkeld, who I have the cards of, but SGC currently has them in their possession. So I'm probably going to do the Braves team set because I have probably most of it at this point. But You wanted to talk about the Jeff Heath card there.
Yeah, I mean, just in the context of my PSA registry set, I have a 6 and you have a 7, so it seems like it would be something we might want to talk about a trade at some point.
I think that's a great idea. And just having been part of hosting trade night at Strongsville, I'm happy to be doing some trades. I will happily trade you the 7 for the 6, and maybe you could sweeten it up a little bit, and we'll be all set.
Yeah, I've got plenty of extras after completing the set, so I'm sure I can find something else to
I'm sure you do.
send along.
So that's my 49. I do have a few ungraded 49s here and there. Like I said, I have a couple at SGC and some that I should be getting. I almost bought the Dobie this at Strongsville. I didn't really almost buy the page, but one of my friends did, and it's a great story. Let's move on to, you're the guest, so let's move on to your collection. So you said you completed the set, I guess, about 5 years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
Is the set, the 240 cards that you would consider the set, not the whole master set, are they all PSA graded?
Yeah, it's I've been doing the PSA registry for this set and a few others. I've got a project behind me that you might, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm working on the 48 leaf set in PSA as well.
That is a project. Is that over your left shoulder there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's another episode.
That's more of a lifetime project. I don't think I'll be finishing that in the near term, but I'm about 2/3 of the way through that one. But so back to this set, there's on PSA registry, there's two different variations of the set. There's the basic and the master set. So, and when you can put your same cards from your basic into the master. That's the way it works. So I think number 6 on the basic and number 8 on the master or something on the list. So
I was looking at it last night, and shout out to a gentleman I met this past weekend by the name of Mick Cornett, who I think is 9th on the registry.
Mm-hmm.
I was scrolling through and I saw his business card is in the spot.
Yeah.
I actually have the business card. He gave it to me this week, so I got to send him an email congratulating him on that. And
yeah. So I said I'm complete, Dan, but in the set, but I do from time to time buy upgrades when I can find them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's generally my theory when I complete a set. Is get it done, and then you can upgrade as you go along. And cards find you, like your Jeff Heath that you'll be getting soon. Things find you, and I invariably will upgrade. Certainly when it comes to binder cards, when I get lots of different years in, and I pull out the better ones and stick them in my binders. I think that's the way I like to go on that. So totally understand. So this is the best is not the right word. These are the sort of most valuable cards in the set. You've got 16 on the left and 4 on the right. So tell us how you ended up getting the Jackie Robinson and the Satchel Paige, which seem to be the most expensive cards in the set.
Yeah, one thing I kind of do as I collect sets, that's probably not the smartest financial decision, is I usually leave the biggest cards for last. And anybody who's been a set collector over the years knows, it's there's a push and pull here. I mean, if you want to get going and start making progress on the set, a lot of times you start buying the commons and so forth, and it feels like you're making a lot of progress. But if you really look at collecting in terms of affordability, many of these cards are kind of never going to be more affordable than they are today. As these superstar kind of cards, they tend to keep going up in value. So I think probably about 5 years ago, those were a couple of the last cards I got. The Robinson and the Satch. I think I got the Satch first, and then the Robinson. But I don't remember what dealer I got them from. But I buy from all kinds of different places. I buy on eBay, all of the auction houses. I live in Chicago, so we have the National here, and we have a couple big shows in the spring and the fall. I've been to the Philly show, and so I don't remember exactly where I got those, but I do think I think each one of those has gone up in value like something like 4 times the value that I paid for them back at that point.
Well, I know generally speaking what the Dobie goes for, because I tried to buy one this past weekend and didn't succeed, but I'm sure I will soon. Absolutely, that card.
I do have an extra Dobie in a SGC 7, so
I think you're a little out of my price range. Your 7 is the extra. Oh, that is an impressive accomplishment. So you mentioned Dad's favorite player was Allie Reynolds, which I totally understand as a Yankee fan and a collector of old Golden Age Yankees. And we talked about this a little before we recorded. The '52 World Series is one of my deep dive studies. So I know that Reynolds was remarkable in a 7-game series where they played every game consecutively over a 7-day period. He pitched in, I believe, 4 games, won 2 of them, saved 1, came in, just I guess Casey didn't feel any guilt in throwing him out there time and time again. But Reynolds had been amazing that year. I think he was like 20-8 with like a 2.08 ERA, some ridiculous number, but just a remarkable pitcher, remarkable player, leader, winner, and should be Hall of Famer. He's been on a few of the veterans ballots, but never quite made it in. So if you're an Allie Reynolds fan, you're a friend of mine. So there we go.
Yeah. So I agree with all that you said there. I think his World Series record is, I think, 7-2 in terms of actual decisions, and has 3 saves in addition to that. So he was kind of responsible in some bigger way for 10 World Series game wins, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And he's got I guess he's got 5 rings.
Yes, he was on the
5 consecutive, but
I think he actually has 6. I think he might have been. I'm not certain, but he got traded from the Indians to the Yankees in, I think, 47.
Yep.
For Joe Gordon. And
he might have a 47 ring.
Yeah, and so Gordon ended up getting the ring. He had been one of the big Yankees in the 40s who played with DiMaggio and got rings in the early 40s, and then Gordon was on that team with the Indians that beat your Braves team. So.
Yep, well aware. Actually, one of those situations where a trade worked out very well for both teams.
Right.
Two major contributors to 2, good franchises. But so you have Reynolds here in 3 different copies of the 8.5. How high are these in terms of the graded? Are there any higher, or are there how many higher kind of thing?
So this is kind of the white whale that I had been after. There's 2 9s out there, and they're in a couple of those. There's a couple guys on the PSA registry that have like the highest graded sets of many of the 50 sets, and those 2 9s are in a couple of those sets. So I'm not sure they're ever going to come out of them. Maybe if those sets get broken up in an auction house at some point, maybe I'll have a chance to go after those cards. But other than those 2 9s, there's 6 8.5s, and I've got these 3, and I've got a good friend who has one of the other ones. So I'm always on the lookout. But
So is there any difference between these?
nope.
Okay.
No, just I would say the one on the left probably has the nicest eye appeal.
Yeah, the grading. The one on the left was graded very recently, and the 2 on the right are very older grades. But they're actually really, for older grades, they're really pretty accurate. Honestly, they all look pretty much the same. Really
Yeah,
sharp with wonderful centering.
I'd say the toning on, the color, the white border is whiter on the one on the left, and
Yeah.
that's somewhat unique to see.
So we got some more Reynolds.
So I went a little crazy with Allie Reynolds at some point, and yeah. So what you see on the left-hand side is my group of Reynolds that are PSA 8 and above, or SGC 8 and above. And then on the right, when I see a graded copy that's signed, I like to pick those up too. So that's what you see on the right-hand side.
So the right, yeah. I think that he was a pretty prolific signer. It's not a hard autograph to get, right?
No, it's not. Yeah, there's plenty of Allie autographs out there.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the autograph sessions in the 70s and 80s would be a lot of old Yankee teams,
Right.
and he's on 5 champion with 6. I think we concluded 6, and a major player on this team. So he would certainly be one of those people who would show up at those kinds of those shows. And he was a businessman too. So he was a guy who had who was proud of his post playing days career.
Yeah,
So he
and
certainly be someone who would show up.
that's another one of my projects, is trying to get all of his base cards in a signed copy. I think I've got all of them except for the 51 Bowman. I don't know why, but that one seems to be hard. I've seen it out there, but not in a nice condition copy. And that's one of the things with these signed cards. I try to stay away from ones that don't have nice corners and eye appeal. So
Yeah, and signed cards were not really a thing necessarily, and a lot of signed cards, people got them signed because the cards themselves were not really great condition. So
correct.
let me use the one that's not so good and get that one signed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not going to be an easy task. So
I sent this one to you just because, as over the years, as I've collected this card, one of the things I run into is all these different defunct grading companies, and some of them had a pretty good reputation. I think Sports Collectors Digest, SCD, Authentic had a grading company way back at the early days, and they graded a few of them. I picked this one up, so that's
they gave it a 7. I'm not sure it's a 7.
Looks a little off center, top to bottom. Yeah.
The one on the right is GAI, which
right.
I've had GAI cards in my collection. I don't think I currently do, but 7.5. Yeah, again, maybe a little overgraded, left to right centering, but they are sharp. I mean, these cards are high grade. So the number being kind of not an objective thing, makes it kind of meaningless in a way, because the cards themselves are really, really nice and have terrific eye appeal. So yeah, old grading labels that you ever tempted to crack these out and send them off to PSA?
I don't do that, actually.
Yeah, you have enough of the PSAs.
I've got plenty of the PSA ones to begin with, but I don't know. I don't know why. It probably doesn't mean anything to many people, but it's almost, this is part of the history of the evolution
Yeah,
of grading and everything too, So,
that's a great point. Is
and
that
so I haven't broken them out.
they're more meaningful in the older slabs of the companies that don't exist anymore because that's part of the hobby, really.
They're not
So
more valuable, but they're
yeah,
probably, to me, more interesting.
more interesting, exactly. So then we have this, which you sent me last night. It's not a part of the original group of photos, and I was trying to figure out what it is because I don't know. I zoomed in. I guess I figured out that it was Reynolds because I put it in with the Reynolds stuff. But what are we looking at here?
Well, I just I went crazy at some point as I was collecting this set. I don't know. I really like that Reynolds card, and so I've bought a few of them over the years, and this is part of my 49 Bowman Allie Reynolds collection. So these are all this was all of the raw ones I had at some point, probably several years ago. But I still buy them when I see them. So
Uh,
it's a
I,
fun thing to do.
for my friends listening and not watching, it's a like a laid out on a floor, uh, all Allie Reynolds, 1949 Reynolds, raw copies. I think it's about 300. I just did the math.
Yeah, at that point, that was about my progress. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around 300. So that is a that is a remarkable photo. Um, I do like the layout photos of all the cards. It's always been something that kind of fascinated me, and this one is indeed fascinating. So Rizzuto, we got 49 Rizzuto. We got him with the name on front, without the name on front. Um, so let's discuss this a little bit because it's an anomaly in the set that you have. I guess I don't know about 10 or 15 players whose cards they have the name on front, which is something they did later on in the set. But Rizzuto is card number
98.
98,
Right.
and so his original printing, the one without the number, I'm sorry, the one without the name on front was the original printing, and then later on they printed card number 98 with the name on front.
Yeah, that's right. So little history on the set. And by the way, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about here has been documented in. If you're a vintage collector, you might know the Net 54 website. But there was a super collector, a guy who collected these as a kid, named Ted Zanadakis, and he posted a ton of information on the 49 Bowmans, and you can read all about all of these details on there. But I got to know him and met him at the Philly show a few times and so forth. But he explained kind of how some of these variations happened. So there's actually 12 cards that have some sort of variation where they are printed one way and then printed a second way. So in the case of the Rizzuto, you mentioned there's one with and without the name on front. The one with the name on front is the more scarce version. I consider, I mean, the way the math works, those 12 versions of those cards are really essentially considered high numbers in my mind. These were printed in sheets of 36. The first sheet had a lot of the Hall of Famers and guys that you just showed on in your cards, but so 36 times 7 is 252. There's actually 240 card numbers in the set. So that means there was 12 additional cards printed on the last sheet of 36 that are variations. So I don't know why Bowman, I think nobody really understands why Bowman did this or how they picked the 12 guys that they were going to reprint, but they had a sheet that needed 36 cards. They only had 24 subjects. And so they added 12 guys that had been on earlier cards. And Rizzuto's one of them. Mize is also another one of them. And I think you're going to show a few of the other variations here as we come up.
There's the Mize.
So same way.
Rizzuto and Mize are, I guess, maybe the two most prominent players in this group of name on front, no name on front.
I agree. Yeah, those are two Hall of Famers in that group. And
so
then
upper left is Bill Salkeld, who, interestingly enough, I just sent his card off to STC. On the bottom, who's the player on the bottom? Bob Plummer?
Dillinger.
Oh, Dillinger. I can't, his glasses aren't good enough. And then we'll talk about Rashi in a bit. But you've got, not only does Bill Salkeld have two different cards with, the name on front, no name on front, but also there's a different color in the background. You go from orange to yellow. And Dillinger's the same way. You go from a deep dark blue to a light sky blue.
Right. Now, so the Salkeld, it's a little bit, if you're not looking at this, you can't see it that closely. If you look closely, one of them's orange, one of them's yellow. The yellow one has the name on front, the orange one doesn't. So those are just the two variations of that card.
Right.
On the bottom, when you look at Dillinger, they both have the name on front, which is kind of strange. But if you were to look at the back, there's the variation is actually the name on one of them is in a script, and like a signature, and the name on the other one is printed. So those are a few of the different variations. But again, there's only 12 cards that are in total that have variations in them in the set.
So on the right is Vic Rashi, who was also a Yankee champion, World Series hero. He was also pretty dominant in that 52 series and had multiple really solid years with the Yankees. I'm not sure. We were trying to figure out off camera all the names of the guys who had the 5 World Series rings from 49 to 53. I'm not sure if Rashi's one of them. He might actually be one of them.
I do think he is. Yeah. And this is I think one of the things I love about this card, I collect this card serially as well, but it's the kind of 5 o'clock shadow that he was known for. And he was kind of a menacing, angry pitcher that batters feared a bit back in the era. So,
and there's 2 high numbers. Also, I guess what pitchers that your dad was admired.
Yeah, both that and I think the reason I just put these in and gave you pictures of them, the lemon, there's I think 3 8.5s and 3 9s, and so this is one of the highest graded examples of that card. And then yes, my dad was a big fan of Reynolds, Rashi, and trucks, and so he's the third guy that I like to collect all of his cards. And that one is highest graded example with the 9.
The 9, yeah. So the lemon,
both rookies, by the way, and
both rookies. Yeah, I should mention that this set, I didn't do the exact number. I think there's 25 Hall of Famers. I think there's 185 rookie cards.
Right.
Some crazy number. I'm not sure the Hall of Fame rookie cards is something like 9, I think.
Yeah.
It depends.
Because there's also controversy that's happened over the last several years about there was a time when, because the 48 Leaf set was called 1948 and not 49, that like the Dobie, for instance, there's a 48 Leaf Dobie card, and this was considered the rookie originally
Yeah, let's
because
see that. It isn't.
because
It isn't a leaf. There it is. Yeah.
yeah,
Also yellow. Very similar yellow tone to the
right.
to his Bowman. Yeah. So I actually had a discussion / almost argument about this with a dealer this past weekend
Yeah.
because I called the 49 Bowman Dobie's rookie card when I was trying to negotiate buying it. I was almost like, and the guy who was
And
trying
it
to
is.
sell it to me is like, no, it's not. It's the leaf. I said, well, he said the 48 leaf. I said, leaf is 49. He said, no, it's not. It's 48. I said, you're not familiar with any of the. And then I was like, enough. I'm not going to have a discussion
Yeah.
on like the deep dive research that people have done. But yeah, but I actually saw a reference when I was researching this that people think this is Reese's rookie card, which I think is kind of insane because he's in the 41 play ball
That's
set.
right.
And to me, in terms of defining rookie card, 41 play ball seems to pretty much be the kind of flagship set that nationally distributed that should be considered rookie card. Plus, everybody says there's all this DiMaggio. Which is DiMaggio's rookie card? Everybody's like, oh, it's the 39 play ball, but of course, it's not because he's got a bunch of earlier cards. But if play ball is good enough for DiMaggio, it's good enough for Reese. That being said, this lemon, 8.5, high number, Hall of Fame rookie card. So, as you said before we started recording, it sort of checks all the boxes. So,
It does.
yeah.
I was able to get it from a friend who upgraded to a 9. So this was his cast off, which is nice.
And the thing about Lemon in 48 is that he was a World Series hero.
Right.
He won, I think, two games in the series. I know he won game 2,
Mm-hmm.
but he also kind of came out of nowhere. He was an outfielder and went into the war, and the only reason he got a tryout was because they had to give the guys who went to the war at least a chance to make the team, and then somebody had seen him pitch in the Army, so they wanted to see him pitch, and he pitched, and he became a Hall of Fame pitcher. But so this 49 Lemon has a lot of history to it that isn't necessarily apparent just looking at it as a card. So I'm really happy that you sent this photo. And we move on to I guess these are sort of sheets, but partial sheets.
Yeah. So people who collect this set will run across some of these. So I thought I'd include a couple pictures, but it seems like, especially for the first sheet, the one essentially card numbers to 36, there was printing scraps that ended up making it into the hobby. So think about these as originally probably part of a 9 cards across, four cards down, I think,
right.
or not 36 cards. And these just happen to be ones that survived in a 4 and a 6 card combination. I think the first card in the set there is Vern Bickford.
Right.
I think he's one of your Braves too that you're
yes, he is.
For. But that was a corner of that first sheet, and you can find these sheets actually at auctions. A lot of people, I've seen probably maybe 10 of them with framed, and basically they're like this, but a 36 card sheet. But when you turn them over, they're overprinted on the back, and that's why they're printing scraps. And so
we'll
somebody who worked at Bowman probably took them home and they survived.
We'll get to that. I put them out of order, but I'll click through to the backs of these. But I do like that the 6 card sheet on the right has Feller, Reese, and George Kell.
Yep.
3 out of the 6 players on that sheet are Hall of Famers. So that's
and a minor star named Vic Raschi as well. So
there's Raschi too. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Vic Raschi I don't know if he's ever been on a veterans committee ballot. I know we spoke about Reynolds has been multiple times, but Rashi does have a bit of a Hall of Fame argument to be made, certainly with all those rings. So let me click ahead to. There we go. We'll come back to that last one.
Yeah, so this is what these look like on the back. And you can find these on eBay and places. You'll see they'll either, even when like PSA grades them, they'll call them authentic altered. But really what they are is part of a sheet that survived and somebody cut them up into individual cards. But all of these cards have the original, player that's on the front plus a second player, a different player, overprinted on the back. So
yeah,
you can, if you look closely, you can figure out who the other player is and so forth.
They, have some familiarity with old school printing. This is either a screw up by the pressman or they just were testing for ink or whatever, so they ran it through a couple of times. So, last.
Yeah, this is a fun picture on the right. I thought it's just kind of this is what kids used to do to their cards. So, 49 Bowman Mize. This is the short or the regular print variation that doesn't have his name on front, but he got traded in that season, at the end of the season, to the Yankees. He was on the New York Giants and got traded across town to the Yankees. And so some kid who was collecting the card wanted to make sure maybe he was putting him in order of teams or whatever. And, he knew that Mize was on the Yankees. And so he wrote Yanks on the front of that card. So just not worth anything, but just kind of something that shows what kids used to do.
Well, having been guilty of writing on my own cards when I was much younger, and I still have some of them actually. Not only my name, but I did some other funny stuff. I can sympathize with the kid who wrote Yanks on this, and we did check it out. I thought Mize had been traded in the middle of the season, but you looked it up, and he'd been traded very near the end of the season.
Yeah, and, he only had 23 at bats, I think, with the Yankees.
Yeah, enough to be able to get onto the World Series roster and get himself a ring. Mm-hmm. One of 5 consecutive, and he went on to play for the Yankees for the rest of his career and retired. I believe it was after the '53 World Series. So his last 5 seasons in the major leagues were all World Series victories. Now on the left, I thought these were proofs, but I think you corrected me that they're sort of printing errors essentially.
Yeah, they call them gray slate versions of these cards, but there's a subset of the set. Nobody really, as far as I can tell, has a complete list of all the known examples. They're fairly rare, but some of the cards got distributed or not distributed, because a lot of times you find these as hand cut rather than factory cut, but they are some kind of printing error where they didn't complete the color on the front, and so there's a last color or colors that don't show up here, and so these are, they call them gray slate. There's also, I don't have any, but there's also a pink variation of the red cards that you can find out there as well. But they're just, for somebody who's done collecting the set and still loves it, sometimes when I see these, I just pick them up.
Oh, yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's, I think it's second card from the bottom, second card from the right. I'm pretty sure that's Mickey Vernon.
That is number 94. Yeah.
And Mickey Vernon's 49 Bowman is a beautiful card. I love that sort of, I don't even know if it's like a mustard yellow or a yellow green or whatever the color they use on that. That's a card I love. I've actually owned that and gave it away to somebody as a gift, but I should probably get that one back. So that's That's our last slide. Sorry. Sorry about that. So, Tony, I really appreciate you coming on and sending me all these photos. I really loved going through them when I was setting them up and checking out. Those numbers are pretty high. not in my realm of collecting, but putting you near the top of the PSA registry, which I'll link below to the PSA registry that page, and a few other stuff, some other stuff. Feel free to email me if there's anything else you want me to put in the description. But really, really enjoyed this, sir. I as soon as I saw your photo of your dad's baseball team, I knew this was going to be a special episode. So,
hey, Dan, one other thing I wanted to mention about this set is it traveled a little bit in a strange way. So, long story. I'm not going to tell the whole story behind it, but the set got stolen out of my mom's house, and we ended up recovering it based on some sales of cards that showed up on eBay, and we through the set registry knew what the cert numbers were and so forth, and ended up recovering most of the cards, and also the person who took them was apprehended. But I think the thing I just wanted to mention about it was when we figured out that this happened, there were people who had bought some of the cards on eBay. There was a local card shop that had bought some of them from the guy and so forth. And I was blown away by kind of the generosity of the collecting hobby and the
Nice.
that basically this Yogi Berra that I've got here is one of the cards that got sold on eBay. And I think that the guy who bought it, he eventually got reimbursed by eBay, but he sent it to me back, no questions asked. He says, I don't want to have a card that's been stolen and so forth. I don't know if I'm going to get my money back, but I'm sending you the card anyway. So anyway, just a great story about kind of the camaraderie and the fraternity of vintage baseball collectors.
That is a great story, and I'm glad that we ended on that, because a true collector wants the card in his collection to mean something. And if the meaning for that guy with the Yogi Berra is that it was a card that was stolen out of someone else's collection, that doesn't. If you're a real collector, you don't want that card in your collection. Right. I've sold stuff that I knew, the provenance was not stolen. I've never owned a stolen card as far as I know, but provenance was like, somebody who owned it, or I found out something about the player, or something that caused me to not feel good about the card. And if you're a true collector, you want to feel good about it. So I think you can feel really good about this collection. And again, I love the family part of it. It's really, it makes it more meaningful. And when you're a collector, it's more than just a piece of cardboard, a picture of a player. It has many different meanings for you. And to me, that's the true essence of collecting cards, is that you can find meaning in things that don't necessarily jump right out at you, but that that touch you personally, and that becomes your personal collection. So thank you again, sir.
All right.
See you back here on Tuesday. I've got a special midweek episode, and then next week I'm going to be at the Hofstra show, so I'll do something on that. But so happy you came along, Tony, and have a good day, and have a great collecting experience, and we'll work out that trade off screen. So take care.
Thank you. See you.